Hello everybody. In the previous screencast we looked at how we can replace or remove and add different fragments, and in our example we created 3 fragments: first fragment, second fragment, and third fragment. They all look the same except they have different colors and have different labels. For example, the first fragment says first fragment and it's red, and the second fragment says it's the second fragment and it's green, and the third one says it's third fragment and it's blue. So basically, in this screencast, we want to look at how can we initialize a fragment and pass it data at the same time, such that the fragment could use this data to, for example, change its color or display different label or pass it some data that it's going to display differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fragment, one fragment, and that fragment, I'm going to call it, let's say, we'll call it, for example, the custom fragment. Or for example, I can call it my custom fragment, finish. And now we used to remove these methods, right? But let's have a look at what they do, right? We used to remove all that stuff and so on. So now, before we talk about these parameters and whatever, you could see this initializer. It's called a new instance. This is a factory method, right? And this factory method, it does what? It's a static method. And basically, when you create it, you create new instance and you pass it 2 parameters. And what it does, it creates a new fragment. See, it creates a new custom fragment for you. And then basically, it creates a bundle and then adds the parameters that you pass to the bundle. And the bundle is like a parcel, or it's like the intent you had extras, key value pairs, the key and value, and then you add it to the arguments of the fragment. And then when the fragment is created, it gets these arguments. You can get the arguments and then you set your variables. Why this is important to take care of is that because of the life cycle of the fragment could disappear and then come back again. When it disappears and comes back again, it can retrieve these arguments from by calling onCreate. If the fragment had to be created again, it will call onCreate, but the arguments will still be maintained. So this is something to keep in mind, right? So now in my case, let's say I want to build a fragment that the color of the fragment changes. So basically I need to change it, pass it 2 things: a string, which is the label that's going to display here, and the color. Okay. So now I'm aware that, let's say we call one of them the label, right? That's the fragment label, right? And then argument 1, parameter 1, and call it the label, right? And I'll call it, for example, this is the key, right? I'll call it here. This is the parameter for the label. And then this one is going to be the parameter for the color, right? That's going to be the parameter for the key for the color. Here it is. And then the other one, the color is an integer. So I'll say integer color. Okay. So basically what's going to happen is that when I'm going to pass these values, I'm going to pass first the label, right? The label, right? I'm going to change it to be the label. And then the second parameter is an integer. I'm going to call it the color, right? And then basically all what I'm going to do, okay, is put parameter, put string, which is the arg color, and I'm going to put which one is arg color is an integer, right, which is a color, right, and that this means put integer, right, okay, and then the other one is arg label, right, and it's a string, so I could say label. Right, okay, and I'm setting the arguments the same. So when you set the arguments in a specific way, you have to retrieve them in the same way, right? So basically we go here, the first parameter, which is you're getting what you need to get integer. You get integer, and then we're going to pass it what? The color, right? And that becomes this dot color, right? And similarly, this is arg, this is the label, because this is the label, the second one, and this is this dot label. So basically what's going to happen is that this is the onCreate, right? This is when when it gets actually created, right? So now let's have a look. So basically we already set this, right? We already fixed the factory method, right? And we set up these labels and so on are going to change, right? Okay. So now what I need to do is to be able to change these values, right? And where I'm going to change them is onCreate view. You know, onCreate view is when the view is actually getting created. So now if I go to the custom fragment, right, I need to add a label, which is there. The label is already there. Let's add a padding for it so that let's go to the code, add a little bit of padding, and let's make it 16 dp, just some padding. We go back to the design, and here it is, right? Okay, so now I need access to that label, right? So that's the text view, and let's make it wrap content. Here we are, right? So basically I have this fragment, right? And I'm not going to play with this, just keep it as is. I'm not going to change it, but here we are. This is the fragment, this is the label that we have. Let's give it an ID. We call it, for example, the text view, and call it label, for example, right? So that's going to be the label. So now how do I do that? I need to get access to that label. So where? Let's go back to the custom. Same scenario, we'll do it here. We'll do a view equals this, and we're going to return the view, right? So that's basically what we're going to do. And basically what I'm going to do here is I am going to call to get that view. So I'll say text view, text, this is the name of it. I'll say, for example, view.findView by ID, r.id. Here we go. That's the label. And I could say text view label dot set text to this dot label, right? So basically when I'm initializing it, I can also insert the text in it, right? So that's this. Okay. So now that's going to take care of the label. We'll look at the color in a little bit. So now let's go back to the main activity. So now in the main activity, we updated it to do some things here. I'm going to remove all of that. Okay, I'll remove all of this, remove this fragment stuff. We don't need it. We were demonstrating something. And okay, so basically we have these three buttons. One of them has to load the first fragment, right? One of them has to load the first fragment. The other one has to load the second fragment. And then the last one has to load the third fragment. Okay, so now when we create the first fragment, instead of doing it like this, I'll say custom fragment dot new instance. And then basically I'm going to send it a label and a color. So let's say the label is going to be first fragment, right? And then the color, I'll say, for example, color dot, let's say the first fragment is going to be red, right? So here it is, red. Okay, it's not happy for some reason. Go here. Okay. Oh, we don't need this new because this is a factory method. So basically this is a static method that actually returns a custom fragment. So if you look here, well, let's close all of these. We don't need all of this. All right, we don't need all of these. See, if you look at the custom fragment, the new instance method is a static method that actually returns a fragment, right? So basically we're good. We do this, we pass it the name, and we tell it that this is the fragment and it's red. So I'll do the same thing for the other ones. The other ones are going to be like this and like this. So this is going to be first fragment, this is going to be second fragment, and this one is going to be third fragment. Okay, now what I could do is this one red, and what is that one? So first one is red, second one is green. I'm going to do that. Here's green, and basically the last one is going to be blue, right? All right, perfect. So now these are the colors, perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to test this. So basically I didn't change the colors yet, because if you look at the on create view, all I'm doing is just I'm changing the label. Okay, so the label is going to change. So let's run it. Okay, so basically it starts, it has the first fragment. This is the first fragment, second fragment, and third fragment. It's still loading the red one at the beginning because in the main activity we are still loading the first fragment like this. So basically we can load it like this. Okay, using this instance, right? And we're passing these attributes which are going to be added in the bundle and passed on to the arguments, and then we grab them here when it's on create. So here it is, first fragment, second fragment, and third fragment. What's left now is just to color it. Okay, perfect. So to color it, we go back to the fragment and we do the same thing. We have access to the whole view here, right? This is the view. So I could say view.set background color, right? To this dot color. Here it is, done. So basically I can initialize it, change the view color, and we're good to go. So let's run it again. Here we are, red. Click on here, second fragment, second, and then third fragment is blue. 1, 2, and 3. So basically, it's very similar, but what we did here is that we used these factory methods that when you initialize a new fragment, they come with it. But you have to understand what these labels are. These are the key value pairs that you could use to add these arguments into a bundle and then set arguments. And then basically you use these variables because the onCreate has happened before the onCreate view, right? And then you can retrieve your arguments and then you can use them here. All right, so we have demonstrated how you can pass parameters to the fragment when the fragment is initialized. Okay, so that's an approach of how you can instantiate a fragment and pass it some data. All right, in the next screencasts, we're going to look at how you can communicate from the activity to the fragment and from the fragment to the activity after the fragment is initialized. All right, please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.